Well, hello, that's me again. Today is February 24, 2024. It is weekend, it is Saturday, and I think so you should have some food for thought going into the weekend. So I'm going to spoil your weekend again. So let's start with what is very important and which many people are talking about. It's this. As you can see yourself, that's British are already preparing to do what they usually do. I'm not talking about all British people, obviously. I'm talking about British elites, so to speak, being pirates and stealing things. And banks urge United Kingdom to tighten laws around seizing Russian assets. Anxious to avoid future legal challenges, finance firms are pushing back at pressure to seize frozen assets. As you can see yourself, in February 23, yesterday, and the reason they do that, obviously, is just because all those fairy tales about the land of the laws and things like that, democracy, Magna Carta rights and things like that, mean absolutely nothing. They were thieves always, they remain thieves always, and they're gonna steal things. So Russians kind of know what they're facing here and what do you expect from them. So, but it's very important insofar as the response goes, and that also tells you very much about the utter desperation in London, which is being proven what they really are. The pipsqueak, militarily and economically insignificant, as I already stated, exception of things of nature of Rolls-Royce engines, not even Rolls-Royce cars. I mean, it's the pretty much for conspicuous consumption, but Rolls-Royce engines are definitely good engines, state of the art. So that's one of the very few things Britain or United Kingdom produces nowadays, and that also brings us to the thing which, how to put it politely, British are involved, or English, what have you, involved directly. It is primarily of ops and false flags and things of this nature. So, as you all know, it was 23rd of February in Russia yesterday, and Russia celebrates on this day. Well, it used to be the day of the Soviet Army and Navy. Today it's the day of the defender of the fatherland. It's a major holiday, and you know what do you expect? Kiev regime and the Kiev Nazis and London, for example, wouldn't be themselves if they wouldn't try to spoil it. So they kind of begin to circulate this information about allegedly A-50 being shut down. Well, we know what happened with the first quote-unquote A-50, which has never been shut down, and they used some kind of fake photographs from 2022 with the slightly damaged by shrapnel empennage of the IL-22. Now they just show some kind of fire, and yes, there was a report of evidently unmanned aerial vehicle falling somewhere in Krasnodar Krai, and they show some fire, some burning of things, and that's pretty much it. And they, of course, begin to tell that it is A-50, and actually it doesn't look like it was anything which A-50 would create the scale of the damage. And whatever they talk about is obviously just pursues only one objective, and this is to spoil for Russians their day of the defender of the fatherland. And this is the only thing they can do. They always win somewhere on paper in their imagination, and they have pretty much all propaganda outlets. This is how we call nowadays legacy on mainstream media, and they have the whole army of, for example, Russian so-called military correspondents, most of who never served a day in the army, and basically they feed from, guess what, Kiev regime propaganda. But this is just to kind of warm you up. But if that hasn't been enough, we can go and even face things of this nature. It's absolutely incredible. And here is Mr. Goncharenko speaking to Christian Amanpour. I mean, Christian Amanpour is a bottom feeder, but here he is. He's talking to CNN, and guess what? He talks about it that, you know what? Guess what you're gonna do without Ukraine? obviously you can do nothing without Ukraine because we are going to fight next to you with the United States. Who do you think, he says, will sit in the trenches near Tehran? Well, you know what? Here is the kind of people who you're dealing with, and the guy wants to fight for United States, and the only thing Ukraine now has is, of course, primarily cannon fodder, and it runs even out of it. So, and when you look at this, just, well, what can I say? I mean, the people are really not themselves there, and many, even some Western media begin to break, and I'm talking about the corporate media, which are a euphemism for propaganda machine. They begin to kind of break the whole narrative a little bit, because the more they continue with this narrative, the more they become complicit, and people lose their, you know, whatever the remaining respect they had to them or trust. And even the PBS, which is the Democratic National Committee Central and Neocon Central, even they get people to talk. Well, guess what? I captured here the screenshot from the PBS News anchor by so-called expert Michael Kofman. Experts analyze state of Ukrainian war 2 years into Russian invasion, which is, of course, today is 2 years. So we need to say that the panel they invited has no experts whatsoever. PBS doesn't have experts. And Michael Kofman is no expert, the other lady is no expert, and even John Mearsheimer, who actually contradicted them, which is surprise, surprise. You would never see this from the mainstream media, inviting anybody who says that, oh, what you're telling us is complete BS, Russia already pretty much won the war. But Michael Kofman of the former Center for Naval Analysis, he cannot be an expert because he doesn't have education, as are primarily most people in the Anglo-American realm, and actually in Russia too, who go out and get their degrees in a political science. There is no such thing as political science. It is basically a random combination of facts which is taught to people who really do not have ability in the serious STEM and in the serious military sciences. But to demonstrate to you this, let's take a look at his CV. Here's Michael Kofman. He was born wherever he was born. Nobody knows he was born, who cares? Guess what? He attained a Bachelor's of Arts degree in Political Science at Northeastern University and a Master of Arts degree in International Security at Edmund A. Walsh School of Foreign Service at Georgetown University. Basically, they're all American institutions completely discredited and which failed to produce any serious professionals for the last 20, 30 years at least. So he worked for all kinds of organizations like this, and he was born, he is of Jewish descent, he was born in Kiev. Well, guess what? Surprise, surprise. And he continues to deliver all kinds of the garbage. He was rated or declared the foreign agent in Russia, and rightly so, because the guy is nothing more than a shill. He has no clue about anything military related other than the common media facts which he collects, and because he speaks Russian, he kind of plays the same as most of those Russian immigrants who try to get incorporated into the American propaganda intelligence circuit. So he basically sells BS, and he wouldn't be able to hold the discussion on any serious professional military issue and serious economic issue whatsoever. One of the products of his, for example, how to put it politely, he taught, let's put it this way, Alexander Goltz, the cretin who ran the Red Star newspaper, army newspaper really, armed forces, in 1990s, early 2000s, and the guy who is absolute cretin. And so, well, when you have the, you know, curators and teachers like that, why would you be surprised with the disastrous outcome? But you have to give to John Mearsheimer the credit where the credit is due. Despite the fact that I criticize him constantly, he doesn't understand actually real applicable geopolitics, especially in Europe, and of course none of them know Russia. They basically project themselves onto Russia while not having no toolkit in understanding it. But at least he had enough guts to say that, as I already stated, you guys delivering BS. It's over for Ukraine, and everybody knows that who has any brain power left. And as the result, I kind of can give you the excursus into this thing. You remember the British, they were saying that, you know what, suddenly they recognized that British Challenger tank destroyed in combat for first time. It was several months ago. And, you know, all this British, how to put it politely, think tankdom, it proved itself completely incompetent. And just to demonstrate to you, after Challenger tank has been destroyed, one of actually few of them, the people said there are already some Abrams which have burned. Oh, look, remember, that's the level of the expertise. Remember this guy? British-made tanks are about to sweep Putin's conscripts aside. As a former tank commander, I know the Challenger 2 vastly outmatches what's left on Russian armor. So there you go, Hamish the Breton Gordon. And when you look at this, and then you have this guy, Colonel, it's... I cannot even, you know, continue to talk about it without really laughing at that. But what can I say? That's the level of the British, how to put it polite, I don't know, I don't have terms anymore. Well, here's the Mr. Camp, you know, and he commanded the British forces in Afghanistan. He talks about, I fought in the toughest, spots in the world. Well, really, I don't think so. Afghanistan was the toughest spot, but hey, and he says today that they said I was mad to want to send Ukraine tanks. Now give Kiev the jets it needs. So when you look at their backgrounds and article, it was article published by the Daily Telegraph. I don't know what's wrong with these guys. They are morons. I mean, they are incompetents. Militarily, they are amateurs. They do not understand how to fight serious war. Yeah, that's the only way they fight. They call in close air support when somebody shoots at them and blow this neighborhoods to smithereens. And the only thing this guy learned was how to conduct patrols. That's about it. It's about, 2 hours of the theoretical course and about 20 hours of the practice on the range. But here's the guy who never fought anything. He obviously constantly been on the losing side. He is now suggesting to send the F-16s. Sure, Russians don't care. Send in F-16s. And here's this, his other clowns from the Telegraph, how Ukraine new super fun F-16 will help hold back Russia. It's not gonna help hold back Russia, because obviously those people, they do not understand how the operational coefficients are concentrated and how the combat effectiveness is concentrated against such an environment as Russian air defense and Russian Air Force operating in tandem. Actually not in tandem, in synergy. We're talking about the synergy they achieve in operating together with each other. And these people, they have no concept of it. They have no, reference point, because as you might expect, you cannot prepare serious officer in 44 weeks in Sandhurst. Even if you go there with suddenly probably some STEM background. Most of them, they don't have STEM backgrounds. They get 44 weeks tactical course, and after that you have to go and have the serious mathematical background. And not only that, natural science in general, to be able to progress to the operational level. And that is why when you look at these British officers, those colonels, those tank commanders, they have no reference point. They don't understand. They are completely out of it. The same goes for the majority, not all, but for the majority of American officers who write all kinds of the ridiculous, preposterous things, which primarily are sour grapes and, to alleviate the really serious butt hurt, and they still do not understand what they're dealing with. But as I already stated, in the United States at least, you have people who have understanding of what is going on, and here is your Colonel Buccino, who was there, actually the guy he's published it 2 days ago at The Hill, and he is talking about Ukraine can no longer win, and there is no path for Ukraine to win this war. American support will not change this reality. This is which is finally some sober and professional assessments coming in. And he talks about it that the 60 billion aid package held up in Congress will not significantly change the future. This fight is a long haul, one that will require additional aid. The spigot will close at some point, perhaps soon, turning off aid and sealing Ukraine's fate. So, and as you can see yourself, Colonel retired Joe Buccino is a research analyst at the Defense Innovation Board and a former communications director at the U.S. Central Command. He served as the officer in many formations. So, and this is his report. But if, you thought that, my gosh, yeah, this is the reality, well, guess what? You can always count on Mr. Zelensky and whatever amount of drugs he consumes. But here it is, yesterday, as they kind of perpetuate this thing about A-50. Now they say that, yeah, Zelensky promises new counteroffensive. Ukraine is planning a new counteroffensive against Russia despite a string of recent setbacks, including the failure of breakthrough Moscow defense last year. And that's President Vladimir Zelensky has said. In an interview with Fox News on Thursday, Zelensky acknowledged that some Western backers have expressed impatience with Kiev and the perceived lack of progress, asking him when he will finish the war. When will we win? Actually, they will not, but I mean, they lost again today, some township, and it just continues every day. Russians just inexorably just moving ahead, and this is Zelensky talking. To defend is the task number one, and then to continue our successful story on the Black Sea. Yeah, evidently the successful story on the Black Sea is some kind of, this LHD, well, basically the transport ship which they sunk. So, and he talks about the South is very important, he continued, noting that Kyiv other priority is to hold the line in Donbass, and that, of course, we will prepare a new counteroffensive, a new operation. Well, this is a classic delirium, but what can I say? These are people that combined West is dealing with, and as the result, when you have this type of American diplomats, which are not really diplomats, they're ignorant hacks, and Nuland, actually, she was in Kiev, and then she now she is opposed to pause of fake peace in Ukraine. And of course, negotiations can be conducted when Ukraine is in a stronger position. Victoria Nuland, the Assistant Secretary of State for Political Affairs, said to the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. At the same time, the diplomat denied that the United States dictates to Ukraine when to resume dialogue. Wars usually end in some kind of negotiations, but we will not choose this moment for Ukraine. Ukraine will make these decisions on its own. I mean, so you have these people, apart from the fact that she is a war criminal and her hands are up to the elbows in blood. I mean, this is the lady who, a big honcho in American foreign policy, and she, as the all neocons, well, they're basically destroying country. They drive it into the complete, utter abyss. And what can I say? You know what? No matter who you elect nowadays, they will always be on board. That is why, for example, people say, oh, Trump will come and do this and that. I don't know. He was the guy, actually, who brought the most neocons in his administration ever, including, of course, the absolutely nut job, Mr. Bolton. But yeah, well, okay, what can I say? The hope dies last, so, well, we'll go out and vote for him if he is allowed to run. But that brings us to the other thing, which is very important. Brian Berlechich wrote an excellent article about this in his New Eastern Outlook. It is about the first ever U.S. Department of Defense National Defense Industrial Strategy, confirms what many, which by the way have been released very recently in early February, confirms that many analysts have concluded in regard to the unsustainable nature of Washington global spanning foreign policy objectives and its defense industrial base, DIB, inability to achieve them. And Brian makes an excellent case there describing this national defense industrial strategy, because he's talking about the private ownership of the American defense companies, contractors. It really has nothing to do with the actually defense or offense for that matter. It is about producing very expensive weapons for the profit, for the sake of increasing profit. And it will continue to be so. And this is one of the major factors, of course, which Brian correctly singles out. But there are a few others which are no less major, although of course we all know the term military-industrial congressional complex. But look what it is. I want to remind you, this is National Defense Industrial Strategy, Department of Defense. It was released in the end of 2023, semi-officially, then officially, and you can easily download it. But let me tell you, I read it for you not to. But of course, I would suggest you to read it if you want to. It's a waste of time. It is very much reminiscent of the communiques issued after each party Congress during Brezhnev time. It's basically expand in width, widen in width, deepen into depth for everything good against everything bad. It's not a strategy, obviously, and I can only quote Mr. Alexander Rogers, that the United States doesn't do strategy. They don't know how to do strategy. And it is impossible in the state of the political and economic system as it exists today in the United States, and that is why this strategy is nothing more than how to put it politely, to show off some activity, to emulate some activity. And not only Brian is correct in identifying the fact that private contractors cannot come up with the proper quantity and quality of weapons because it's all about profit, and compared to Russia, for example, where Russia state owns those defense enterprises and those huge corporations which work specifically for the defense of the country, you cannot bridge this gap. It's an abyss. You cannot bridge it. And then, of course, there is another thing. I showed you this, but let's recall 6 years ago. Look at this. Do you recognize it? Assessing and strengthening the manufacturing and defense industrial base and supply chain resiliency of the United States. It was a report which was issued on the orders of Mr. Donald Trump, who was the president at that time, in September 2018. Well, guess what? This new national defense industrial strategy pretty much repeats most of the points which have been stated already 6 years ago then. And believe me, nothing improved since then. And basically, Trump's report in 2018 described the complete decline of American industrial base, and nothing is gonna change. And in this national defense industry, the most fundamental thing that you just read it. I mean, when you have the requirement for the having new cadres as diversity, equity, I can't even explain it to you. It's ridiculous. American meritocracy is that, and they write about it there. Actually, they wrote about it in Trump's report, and today in this national defense industry so-called strategy, they write about this again. They talk about the cadres, that young people are not interested to go and work on the manufacturing floor. But America have been hemorrhaging the professional cadres and competent people, and the baby boomers are leaving, and there is nobody. Well, there are some, make no mistake, there are some good American kids who love their STEM and they go and study it, but very few really view their manufacturing floor as their future. They all want to be some kind of whatever, IT guys or marketing guys, and earn whatever six figures, and then buy some expensive crap and drive some expensive garbage car, and that's about it. This is the only thing they want. They are not going there. They're not coming into this basically national industry, defense industry, and this will continue to deteriorate. Guys, what do you think? How did we get the Boeing 737 MAX? Remember the plane which was designed by monkeys and supervised by clowns, or other way around? I don't remember. Don't you know what is happening there? And those people who think that private industry somehow gonna pull it off, no. And this is why I'm constantly on the record that the United States lost the arms race. You cannot win the arms race when you need to have a very well-designed and high concentration of the resources for the specific programs. That is why the United States cannot produce hypersonic weapons. It cannot produce supersonic anti-shipping missile. It cannot produce many things anymore. It cannot produce good tank. While if you look at Russia, the range of the weapons Russian cranking up now is it's beyond basically grasp or capabilities of the United States. It's simply beyond. It cannot produce them. It can produce F-35. It cannot produce something Su-57 with, of course, the R-37 missile. And this will continue. This thing will continue. This is decline which have been already very well recorded and documented already. I told you, 6 years ago, and then 8 years ago was the same thing. In reality, the decline of American industrial capability started long before all those reports and all those so-called strategies. Just to give you another thing. You might not know this, but the United States virtually has no real serious shipbuilding industry other than, building a ship or two here and there and stuffing it with mostly produced, with the equipment produced not in the United States. Its propulsion and all the other things are produced elsewhere. Navigation contours, and it's Japan, it's China, it's what have you. And the only thing they have now is they continue to crank out those Virginia-class submarines, for example, and aircraft carriers. They will continue to build those now obsolete weapon systems, and they try to move 5 of them to near China in the area, South Asia. And in real war, they're not survivable targets. And what can I say? I mean, they continue to live in this, world. And one of the major reasons, apart from the lack of cadres, and again, American public education, it starts from the school. It starts from this K-12. It's completely destroyed. So you're not gonna get cadres who are competent, who know basic math, basic algebra, geometry, and things of this nature. You're not gonna get them. And after that, you're not gonna get many of them going into the STEM education, let alone the manufacturing engineering field. And when you look at this and you begin to kind of see why this document is nothing more than just the collection of some words, some paths, things for, as I already stated, for everything good against everything bad. But in the end, and this is what my new book is about, partially about it, but I was on record for a number of years. United States doesn't have general staff. United States has services, and each of the service actually loves their own, so to speak, fodder. And they create all those requirements which, not serious for the real war. And as the result, you have the the harmonizer, so to speak. Well, the harmonizer is the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but again, they do not really have the capability, as for example, Russian General Staff has, which acts as the real strategy definer, if you wish. And they are the guys who also define completely, only them, procurement policies, because they not only they decide what and how they want it, but they call on the captains of industry, be them large machine building complex or nuclear energy or what have you, and they bring them into the general staff, into the Ministry of Defense, and they say, we need this. How fast and how well can you do this? And if captains of industry tell them what they cannot do. This doesn't exist in the United States, period. And it will not exist because the American military system is designed for, well, I don't know, for expeditionary warfare, for defeating the for defeating of Iraq. That's about it. That's about the level, and that is why you can quote me on that. It's not gonna help. And fact is, again, they want to continue with this, diversity, equity, and whatever tolerance things. Good luck with that. You're not gonna get good cadres because the good cadres come only after the stiff competition, and this is meritocracy, which has been killed in the United States. It has been dead for a while. And what can I say? This is the only thing which comes to mind when you talk about this whole strategies and how they develop them. Meanwhile, in the conclusion, this is what have been happening, as you can see yourself, in Russia. The return of the good initial military preparation in schools. The kids, as you can see yourself, knowing how to handle weapons wisely can save lives. And they're talking about Russian schools getting back now at the training camps, and the girls are mainly trained in medical care, while boys are given weapons and drills. This is coming back, and this is the Soviet practice, which was great. And fact is, that also opens their vacancies, educational vacancies, or employment for former officers or senior NCOs who can come to school and teach that. And obviously they teach basic tactical issues like how to operate in squad. That's what we have been taught in the Soviet Union in 70s. So this tells you everything how Russia is gearing for final defeat of the West. And Mr. Kofman can come up with whatever BS he wants to, but he is no military specialist, and as already stated, there are no military experts in the current legacy media in the United States, because all of them, including Tom Brass with the big stars on their shoulders, they're no good. And that's pretty much what I wanted to tell you today. And what can I say, guys? As always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford it, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee and too. And this is it for today. And what can I say? Have a nice weekend, guys. Relax. Bye-bye.